Your older brother, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And how was he showing you the ropes?
Let me tell you, nigga. My crib got shot up when I was like 14. I was some stupid ass shit. The bullet, that bitch flew like right past my face. They had shot the back and the front. Then they blew the car up and set that bitch on fire. Shit was busting. I ain't gonna lie, what was going on. They can't f the crib up. That bitch almost hit me, dog. See what I'm saying, though? Shit like that. That play a part. All type of. Just seeing that shit every day. I was seeing it every day, you know what I'm saying? So at everything they was, I was seeing that shit all the time. Just like I'm doing right now. It's just I'm a part of it now, so it's different.
So you would say you've experienced some trauma?
Basically.
One name struck fear into his opposition across Chicago's South Side. Bloodhound Lil Jeff openly claimed over 11 bodies in his music and in the streets. He chased rivals on camera, dropped viral disses, and documented his own alleged crimes in real time. And for years, despite all of that, despite the bodies piling up around him on both sides of his war with Trap City, no charges ever stuck to his name. No long bids. He stayed on the block, dropped tracks, flashed chains, and kept escalating one of the deadliest chapters in recent Chicago drill history without the system ever catching up to him. This is the breakdown of how Lil Jeff managed to walk free for as long as he did, and what it actually took for the streets to finally close that gap. Jeffrey Lamar Harris Jr. was born July 14, 2002 on Chicago's South Side, raised in Drill City and affiliated with the Bloodhounds, a newer crew that emerged in the late 2010s and early 2020s, heavily tied to the rise of drill music itself. Alongside his close associate Bloodhound Q50, Jeff became one of the faces of the set. Q50 had his own reputation, but Jeff stood out for an energy that read as genuinely reckless, like someone who had already decided the consequences didn't apply to him. He talked openly about the violence that shaped him. In an interview, he described his family's house getting shot up when he was around 14 years old, bullets passing close enough that he remembers them near his face. He talked about that kind of exposure becoming normal, something he saw constantly rather than something that happened once. Whatever trauma sat underneath his later behavior, he was naming it himself. And even as he kept escalating the exact lifestyle that trauma came from, the first real crack in the case against him came early, and it set the pattern for everything that followed. According to people connected to Trap City, the long-running war between the Bloodhounds and Trap City traced back to a stolen chain. Members of Trap City claimed Jeff had taken a chain belonging to someone in their circle and never returned it, instead allegedly showing it off, and at one point claiming during a police chase that it had simply gone missing. Whether that explanation held up or not, nothing came of it legally. No charges, no real consequence. Jeff walked away from an incident that ignited a war between two crews, and that pattern, provoke, escalate, walk, repeated itself for years. After the chain situation, bodies started dropping on both sides. Z-Money, Jeff's cousin, was one of the early losses. Shot multiple times while sitting in his car, later pronounced dead at the hospital. Retaliation followed almost immediately. Lil Pooh, a 19-year-old connected to Trap City and several affiliated sets, was killed in April 2023 outside his own home in a quiet suburb well outside Chicago's usual violence, in what people believed was direct payback, especially given that Jeff had released lyrics referencing Lil Pooh's death specifically. Once again, no charges connected to Jeff personally. Then came Trap City Leo. In June 2023, a 19-year-old Trap City member was shot multiple times while riding in an Uber in Little Italy. He didn't survive the trip to the hospital. Jeff and his crew went on social media mocking the death almost immediately, framing it publicly as retaliation. And once again, no arrests tied directly to him, no charges that stuck. This is the part that makes Jeff's case genuinely strange from a law enforcement perspective. He wasn't hiding any of this. He was documenting it himself in real time on platforms anyone could access. Police had social media posts, they had his own lyrics referencing specific deaths, they had video of him going live discussing situations the streets already understood to be connected to actual killings. In most cases, that level of self-incrimination would be the foundation of an airtight prosecution. For Jeff, for years, it wasn't enough to make anything stick. The same pattern played out with BKN. Bloodhound and BKN had been close at one point. There's footage of Jeff hanging out with BKN members on their own block. Genuine familiarity between the crews. Then, according to what circulated, members of BKN allegedly took Jeff's wristwatches while he wasn't paying attention, under the pretense of taking pictures together, and ran off with them. Jeff addressed it directly in an interview, saying nobody forced anything from him. They asked for photos and then took off with the watches while his guard was down. He made it clear in his own words that he intended to respond, repeating that the situation was going to stay gangster, regardless of what happened next. What happened next was the Loop double murder. On January 26, 2024, two BKN-affiliated teenagers, Montario Williams and Robert Boston, were shot and killed outside Innovations High School in downtown Chicago, just hours after one of them had posted his location showing off the same watch and chain that had been taken from Jeff. Jeff didn't go quiet after. He went live and rapped about the hit specifically. Around this same period, Jeff sat down for an interview with DJU-TV alongside friends, and the conversation itself reveals something about how he understood his own reputation. When asked about the internet portraying him as dangerous, he brushed it off, claiming most of what circulated about him came from Reddit, and pointing to a specific YouTube breakdown using him as an example of what young people shouldn't become. He dismissed it as exaggeration. When asked directly about the watches and how he ended up with them, he gave a vague answer rather than addressing the BKN situation in detail. So, why didn't any of this stick for years, given how publicly documented it all was? Part of the answer is the practical reality of Chicago homicide investigations generally. Clearance rates for shootings in certain neighborhoods are genuinely low. Witnesses are reluctant to cooperate with police regardless of what circulates online, and social media bravado, while damning in the court of public opinion, doesn't always meet the legal threshold required for criminal charges without corroborating physical evidence or cooperating witnesses. Claiming a body in a song or a live stream is not the same as something a prosecutor can take to trial without more. Part of the answer is also that some of the violence connected to Jeff happened through crews and unnamed shooters, rather than direct individual action that could be pinned cleanly on him. And part of it, by every account from people who knew him, was that he simply moved like someone who had internalized that he was untouchable, which made him bolder rather than more careful. That sense of invincibility lasted right up until June 8, 2024. Around 5:15 p.m., Jeff and his crew rolled into Trap City territory on the 6900 block of South Roads in Woodlawn. He spotted an opposing member, got out, and gave chase on foot while firing. But in doing so, he ran ahead of his own crew and left himself exposed. Multiple shooters returned fire from an alley and from inside a nearby house. Jeff was struck somewhere between 15 and 19 times, the majority of the rounds hitting his chest and upper body. He was rushed to the University of Chicago Medical Center and pronounced dead at 21 years old. The man who had walked away from every previous case, the chain theft, Z Money's death, Lil Pooh's killing, Trap City Leo, the Loop double murder, finally ran out of room to walk away from anything. The system never closed the case on him while he was alive. The streets did. What's happened since tells you the documentation he left behind mattered more than it seemed to at the time. Prosecutors have since confirmed that a third unnamed deceased gunman was involved in the Loop murders specifically, a description that lines up with Jeff's own timeline and the evidence collected against the men charged alongside him. The videos, the lyrics, the location posts that never seemed to stick a charge to him directly while he was alive are now part of the case being used against the people who were with him. The self-documentation that protected his reputation in the streets became the evidence that's holding other people accountable after his death. Lil Jeff spent years being the example of someone the system couldn't touch. In the end, the only verdict that ever caught up to him wasn't a courtroom's. Drop a comment. Do you think Lil Jeff could have eventually faced real charges if he had lived? Or do you think the streets were always going to get to him first?